Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today on Face Off we are wrapping up the series where I have been comparing a season of Classic Who with its equivalent from Modern Who. We are looking at the final one, at least thus far, for now. And of course that is Season 13 of Classic Doctor Who, Tom Baker's second season, against Series 13, Jodie Whittaker's final series, which of course is also called Flux. And it was a very one-sided battle, as we all expected, I think, with Classic Season 13 getting 91% of the vote, Flux getting 7% of the vote, and 1% of the vote calling it a tie. So 91% for Classic Who, 7% for Modern Who, and I think I speak for a lot of us when I say Classic Season 13 got robbed. Robbed. Because I know what you're thinking, but it got 91% of the vote. But see, I'm looking at that as only 91%? What do you mean, only 91%? Because let's be honest, that should be a higher number. You look at the vote for Series 12 against Season 12, and Season 12 had 97%, whereas Series 12 only had 3%. So I was expecting that number, because Series 12 is better than Flux. It really is overall, timeless children aside. So I was expecting that kind of number, 97 to 3, 98 to 2. 91 to 7, I feel robbed. As a classic Doctor Who Tom Baker fan, I feel robbed. Robbed. But still, it's definitely a stomping 91 to 7, with 1% calling it a tie. Of course, between the two, I prefer Season 13. I think Season 13 of Classic Who is the best season the show has ever put out. It and Season 12 are constantly vying for my favorite spot. But there's no bad stories in Season 13. I mean, the weakest one for me would be Android Invasion. And Android Invasion is great. Not just good, great. I know some people might say Planet of Evil might be the weakest. But Planet of Evil, I think they would still agree, is great. It's not even just okay. It's not even just good. It's great. That jungle set alone. Plus, I like the ship set. Plus, the special effects. Excuse me. I like everything going in on it. And that would be the two weakest stories. Then you have things like Terror of the Zygons, Pyramids of Mars, The Seeds of Doom. And then, Brain of Morbius? I mean, you have just banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. And then you look at Flux, and now Flux has some interesting things going on. One, it uses the Sontarans well, possibly better than Modern Who has at all. The only thing that I could stack up with it for Modern Who is the Sontaran two-parter from Series 4. But it actually does get the Sontarans back on track at being a threat. I like that. It also uses the Angels well. The Village of the Angels would have been a great episode if it had been a standalone episode. Same thing with the Sontaran episode. As standalone episodes, they would have been great, I think. The only thing holding them back is being tied in with Flux hurts them. And I did like that part in episode 5 when Jericho and Yaz and Dan were all in the past on adventures together. That was great. I love that. So there's interesting things in there, but overall it's very meow. And the 13th Doctor herself is mostly meow, with a few bright moments. Let's check the comments and see what you guys had to say. Boom. Let's wipe off the glasses real quick. And then see what you guys had to say. Epic Videos from the Deep from Jason says, classic. It has my favorite Fourth Doctor stories and has no bad stories. Exactly. Fellow YouTuber Paul Bailey says, hands down at Season 13, it's my all-time favorite classic season. It's my all-time favorite season of Doctor Who. I love the gothic horror feel, although the season, my three favorites are Pyramids of Mars, The Brain of Morbius, and the legendary Seeds of Doom. Plus, Tom and Elizabeth are brilliant together. They really are. That's my favorite TARDIS team, Tom with Sarah. Series 13 is the best Jodie series for me personally, as I feel it gets the Sontarans right, plus the callback to Links from the Time Warrior is brilliant, as well as the same with Village of the Angels, which are two highlights of Flux, although I personally prefer Series 12 over Flux. Bobby Frackrell, I don't know why I'm having trouble with Bobby's name. Bobby Frackrell, who's a huge Sylvester McCoy fan. He loves Delta and the Bannerman. Says, I love the Jody years. Flux has its moments, but hard to get my head around. Need to rewatch sometime. But this one is slay. I think this experiment will prove Classic Who is much better than Modern Who most of the time. And I'm pretty sure he means the face-off list as a whole. Which, to be honest, I knew when I started doing these, the only ones that were going to give competition were the early seasons, Series 1 through 4, and maybe Series 5. After Series 5, I knew it was going to lean in Classic Who's favor. I was 100% positive of that. It was more just how bad is Classic Who going to win over Modern Who after that. Because Modern Doctor Who really did peak early, and then it just kind of... Bananas Are Good says, only people who have never seen Classic Season 13 would vote Flux over it. It's one of the best seasons of Doctor Who of all time, and Flux was abysmal. Foggy D says, I prefer Jodie Sontaran's story to Tom's Zygon one, and I find Village of the Angels to be more enjoyable than either Planet of Evil or Android Invasion. Disagree on both counts myself. But I do think the Sontaran story is good, and I think the Angel story is good. It's just the Flux stuff. The ending of Village of the Angels, turning into a statue, is so dumb. But if you took that out and just had Village of the Angels as a standalone story, then I might be more on board. But the rest of Flux is mostly crud, whilst the other 3 stories in Season 13 are absolute all-time greats. 2 of the 3 specials are decent too if they count, but Legends of the Sea Devils would drag it a lot further away from the potential tie. So it's classic yet again for me, but for the second time, once I actually thought about it, the decision on which way to vote wasn't as clear-cut as I had assumed. Philip says, Season 13 is like a mighty golden castle, glittering and gleaming in the midday sun, commanding the attention and respect of all who gaze on it. Series 13 is a dull yellow stream of rhinoceros piss. It seems to go on forever and it stinks. Simon, who has been with the channel for a while now, Simon has actually sent several things to the P.O. Box, which I very much appreciate. He says, well, I guess this day had to come, and I'm wondering if this is a genuinely serious poll. But then I noticed that some of the votes have already gone on Flux, so what do I know? BNRM says, Chibnall's writing claims another unsuspecting victim, Prowl's sanity. Noting how I did the poll when I wrote, the fact that I was breaking down laughing trying to write out the poll in the poll. Boys Night says, the best season versus the worst season. Geek Detritus says, Season 13, Classic Season 13 is the best season in the history of the show. Yes. There, I said it and I'm not taking it back. Me neither. I hope the only reason they have yet to give it a Blu-ray release is because they know how loved the season is and they want to make sure they do as much special features for it as they can. I suspect they want to do it last for Tom, just to let his era go out on a bang. I mean, we started with Season 12, and so to end with Season 13 of his run would be fitting. I can see them doing that. Kenpachi 456 says, really, one of the best seasons of all time versus any Chibnall. I'd choose Tom's worst seasons over this. Tom's TARDIS team is always on point. That's true. Tom always has great companions. Reborn and Itsy Bitsy. That's funny. Says Classic Who wins every time. II237 says, call me an optimist, placing an early vote for Series 14 over Season 14. That's a heck of an optimist. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Shudy's going to bring to the role and seeing what Series 14 is going to be like, especially since I find Season 14 very overrated. JLBWHO, who is also one of my patrons, says, do the Jodie Whittaker specials count in this, as I love Eve and Power a lot? However, as I suppose it's mainly just Fluxed in, this is an easy win for 13. I also enjoy Power and Eve a lot. The Gherkinman says, kneel before the might of Classic Season 13. And when I read that, the first thing that went through my head was, kneel before Zod! Shamrock Particle says, too easy. Classic. Even the Android Invasion and the risible plot doesn't drag it down. Like Nymon, it's a fun ride if you accept it for what it is and not look for plot holes or contrivances. Okay, he's got a lot to say. Hold on. Whew, take a breath. Season 13 is a big mess that doesn't get elevated too much by the stunt casting of Doctors 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Fugitive. I don't remember 9 being in there. True, COVID hampered 13, but seasons 23 through 26 also had been hobbled, and they stand up for far better and have better ideas handled more consistently. Amazing considering season 26 relies more on emotional oohs and ahs than plot consistency, but the ideas are more interesting despite it all. Now, when you compare season 26 to series 26, my vote for now, and please note it is subject to change, and or a box of Cracker Jacks that the kid next door started eating but then sneezed in, goes to classic. It has some variable acting quality and some plotting is incoherent, true, but McCoy and Sophie are very difficult to best. That's true, they're very good. Series 26 will be full of in-jokes, self-aware fourth wall gags, and a lot of the feels, and probably based on will they, won't they copulate that are more than sincere. Now, as for clairvoyance, do we actually think modern Doctor Who will get to Series 26? And if it does, dear God, will it just be a walking corpse of itself by that point? Jake E says, Season 13 wins, although I almost want to click Flux just to mess with you. It would be funny if everyone clicked Flux and you had a meltdown in your video. Not at all, I just think it's hilarious. I've always wondered that if like some of the Twitter bandwagon would stumble onto one of these polls with Jodie and just, you know, it has like 1,000 votes for Flux. I'd just laugh. I'd think it was hilarious. Colin Coney, who is also one of my patrons, says, oh my, insert deity here. The deity you're looking for is Giddy Ant. Oh my Giddy Ant. Tom Garb says, give me a hard one. Henry Andrews says, seriously, you're asking me to compare Pyramids of Mars to the likes of the Vanquishers? I'd take Terror of the Zygons over Terror of Chibnall's writing any day. And somehow 7% of people disagreed with that. And Lee Carroll says, is it even worth asking with this one? So the comments also heavily in favor of season 13. I'm also heavily in favor of season 13. And season 13 winning the poll, a very, very criminally underrated and disappointing 91% to Modern Who's 7%, with 1% calling it a tie. So if you didn't get to vote in this poll, I want to know which one you like better between Classic Season 13 and Modern Series 13, also known as Flux. Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. That helps me out. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers in 2023, and we are right there on the edge of it. As I record this, I believe I have crossed over to 990. We are right there. Already starting to plan that, 1K live stream I plan on doing, like to celebrate 1K. I've already got a live stream in mind. I'm planning that out. So don't forget to click that button. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. That really does help keep the bills paid. I really would love the idea of eventually getting enough people on the Patreon where I can cut down to part-time at work and do this full-time. That's a ways away, but that's the dream. But so if you're interested in that, there is a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the continued support of all of my patrons. It does make a difference. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, Doctor Who related or otherwise. I do enjoy getting other stuff as well. I have just started watching Blake 7 recently, and I am enjoying it. Got to get around to editing that second episode. I've watched it, I just haven't edited it. And then I also have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.